Hey folks, what's going on? Listen, my heart has been, well, first, let me say this, Happy New Year. Not just Happy New Year, but Happy Decade. I said it, I know I did a video earlier and I said it, but I'm just gonna say it again, whatever, because this is, I guess it's huge. We're going into a whole nother decade of life, a whole nother decade of living. And, you know, while time is just a matter of what it is, you know, we kind of govern ourselves sometimes by time and different stuff like that. So I guess it was worth, you know, giving us a happy decade thing here. But ultimately, I wanted to talk about this. Listen, I'm noticing a lot of, and I've always noticed it, a lot of relationship advice and different things that people give, and I want to say relationship advice versus relational guidance or relational wisdom. Just because I see so many different things. There's so many relationship coaches, so many relationship influencers, leaders, pastors and preachers, and there's just so much information out there, or so many things that people say, you know, be they professional like psychologists or therapists or any of that stuff regarding relationships. And this is just something that came to my heart and came to my mind regarding this. And relationships are extremely important, and everybody in this community, in the Society 61 community, y'all know this or whatever. And we're basically an organization, and I hate to use the word organization because I really want to say we're a relationship that is focused on relational wellness. So there's some things that just kind of comes to mind when I think about relational wellness. And one of the things particularly is when people are given a lot of this relationship advice, we have to kind of be careful of that, because when you're giving it to a broken heart, when we're giving it to a heart that is searching for wholeness, we run the risk of that heart taking the advice that has been given in a wrong way. All right. So, and what I mean by that is some of the hard things that we talk about, you know, sometimes we talk about having to cut people off or get rid of people and protect your energy and all these things and this, that, and the other. That kind of information falling on a heart that is already broken, or a heart that has already not been, that has not already been restored, can be troublesome, or can be problematic, or can be even dangerous. It can at some point even cause a callous heart. All right, so because a lot of times what happens is people process that information in the same, kind of in a sense, sometimes in the same energy that violated them in the first place. All right, so when we're speaking to people that have hearts that have been broken, one of the, I think the wisest way to go about this, and this is just something that God is ministering to my heart right now, one of the wisest ways to go about this is to first at least attempt, all right, to try and restore that person to the closest place of wholeness that we can get them to before we start offering advice. All right, and I say advice kind of, not to say condescendingly, but kind of like in a snide kind of way, just because all relationship advice is not relational wisdom. It's not necessarily relational guidance. All right, so the whole point of a lot of these things, and in building and recreating or creating a society that is flowing in love and that is truly well and truly operating in wisdom and stuff like that, the heart of this is really restoring to our authentic selves, restoring our heart to its peaceful place. You know, because a lot of people are running around and we say, oh, I'm healed and I'm this, that, and the other. The relationship advice that talks about get over people, sometimes the energy that's coming from is actually not from a healed place. That's coming from maybe time has just gone by and you just get over it, or you just need to move on, or you just need to whatever. And we don't realize that a lot of times we're not allowing people's heart to really truly recover from whatever it may be that may have violated them in whatever type of way. So one of the first things that we have to do is to really try to bring that person, try to guide that person, and try to coach that person. This is what I do as a relationality specialist. All I'm really doing with people is trying to get us to not lose sight of our heart, of who we really are. Our experiences, they shape us, they can affect us in a lot of ways, but we can't allow them to steal who we really are, to take us away from the authentic self of who we really are. The pain and different things that we feel, the trauma that we feel, are indications that something foreign has happened. All right. And we can't continue that type of foreign information if we're trying to heal a heart. And we do it all in the name of trying to say, you know, we just want people to face reality and this is that and the other. Well, the greatest reality is that we were created to be relational beings. Part of that greatest reality is that we were created to function and flow in a wellness, in a well system together for well-being, for and with one another. All right, the greatest reality. These things are kind of lost at times because we have everything going on. We have hurt that have happened. We have people that won't act right. We got folk that just won't cooperate. People that no matter how hard you try, it seems like they just keep abusing you and misusing you and any other word you could think of or whatever. But it's hard when we start losing sight of our own humanity and we start losing sight because we have to survive one another, instead of really trying to figure out ways to thrive with one another. But we'll never get to the place of thriving with one another if we can't even individually be at a place where our hearts are whole. So when you're offering a lot of relationship advice or different, and even taking in a lot of different relationship advice, because some of us are brokenhearted. Some of us are still trying to achieve the awareness of the wholeness of our heart or whatever. But a heart that is not operating in wholeness can't or has a struggle, is hindered in truly processing the information that is being given. So it's very important that we help to restore people back to that place of wholeness and peace, which the word peace, it actually shalom, it means really nothing missing, nothing broken. All right. So now that doesn't mean that things haven't happened to you, but it's saying that you really restore to that place. And we ask the question, well, how do you know? Well, how do we know that they're healed? How do you know that they're healed? Listen, a healed heart is not one that be like, I figured out I just got to do what I got to do for me. Or I just, you know, like, y'all notice my head moving like this because that's how people do it. You know, I'm over that. I'm all over that, you know, and they get the clap. I'm over that, you know, and this is that and the other. That's not a sign of a healed heart necessarily. A healed heart is one that actually manifests and responds and returns to kindness, gentleness, even long suffering. And that's when the heart is healed. All right, it's when it's stepping back into its sense of wholeness, if that makes sense. All right, so because again, a lot of people are saying they're healed. I've had so many people, I don't have to say, oh, I'm healed over that. I'm healed of that relationship. But I'm really sensing the energy and the spirit that's coming from it. And it's like, no, you're not. You're just kind of done with it. You're just kind of through with it and just over it. And maybe even in some degree have numbed to the events of it or to the situation, or you just tired of that person. Like, hey, look, they are out of sight, out of mind, or they've been gone for a long, you know, that does not necessarily equate to healing. Healing, when we talk about a soul level and we talk about a heart level, it's really a restoration of a soul that manifests in the image and likeness of God, a soul that manifests back to a place of peace, back to a place of kindness, as I was saying, and maybe even gentleness. But, you know, the heart ain't necessarily rolling his head and rolling his eyes and this is that, and the mind, I'm over that. And I could, if I never see them ever again in my life, then I'm just totally fine, you know. And again, I'm not saying that sometimes things don't kind of come that way and happen that way, but you got to really, really, with self-introspection and maybe with a few people, trusted friends that you can trust your heart with, to really look at that and say, hey, are you really truly healed of this? Now, again, this also doesn't mean that you totally forgot about it and that you totally, that you may not sometimes, you know, kind of cringe a little bit when you think about certain things or certain people or certain acts that have happened. Because here's the thing, when bad things have happened to us, there should be a level of woo to that. All right, but it shouldn't have to be because you're broken. It should be because you know that when things like that happen, it causes a disarray in our relationality. It causes a disarray in the way we were created to function. All right, so I say a lot of times that the pain that people experience, if you really go deep into your pain, or there's two things you can do with your pain. You can either use your pain and you can project it on the other people, or you can see your pain and say, ooh, I want to make sure that I never put anybody through this type of thing. All right, so you still see those negative situations or those bad situations as things that have happened that is like, oh, we don't want that to happen. So I want to make sure that I recognize that and and remember what that feels like so that I don't issue that to somebody else. But that type of awareness still comes from kindness. That type of awareness still comes from gentleness. It still comes from you having a sense of your humanity. It comes from you being able to be able to see one another, to be able to see people. It doesn't come necessarily from, it's not necessarily fueled by your trauma of it. It's fueled more so by the kindness that you have embraced and that you have returned to and that you have recognized. All right. So I just wanted to share that. There's just a few nuggets about things regarding it as you're taking in information regarding relationships, and as you're giving it out. Be mindful that you want to first try your best to help that person to be a relational guide, and listen to people who are relationally guiding you. You know, the scripture talks about in the multitude of counsel there is safety, or in the multitude of godly counsel there is safety. And we got to make sure that it's godly counsel, because there's some relationship advice that's out there that sounds good and they be like, yeah, this is what I got to do, but it's deeply survival based. It's not really thriving based. All right. And when I say thriving, I'm talking about for all of us to fully get to a place where we can thrive again. All right. So just kind of ponder that and think about that. And what we want to do here, especially specifically, I was going to say specifically, especially specifically in the Society 61, we're a collaboration, y'all. We are a collaboration for what do the things say? A collaborative alliance for relational wellness. We're all about relational wellness, and those are the little things, sometimes the little shifts that I think that we can add to our conversations, to our comments that we make to each other, to just how we process a lot of this relationship stuff. Those little bitty shifts can make a huge difference. Somebody asked me or said to me one time before, they said, you seem like a different type of relationship coach. And that's why I really kind of stay away from even calling myself a relationship coach, because I'm not really that. I'm not a expert on relationships. I do consider myself to now be a specialist on it, because this is the work of my life. This is my life's work. This is what I've been doing, and this is the wisdom that I hear regarding. I believe that God has given me the word of wisdom regarding a lot of these things. That doesn't mean I'm always right, you know, but I think that there is some wisdom in this, and why this sometimes sounds different than what a lot of other people are saying regarding relationships. You know, we talk about all the boundaries and all of these other things, and I just posted the other day, the reality of boundaries, when you really fully truly understand it. And I know that there's other talk out there that says this differently, but it's really more so about taking ownership and responsibility of yourself and how you're going to govern you. And we use it more so about how we're going to keep people out, how we're going to keep people from violating us. And I say all the time, sometimes the best way to be to protect your energy is to be your energy. So that's the boundary thing. The boundary is to be who you are, to be your energy, and others will have to kind of fit in to where they fit in regarding that. And there are some exceptional situations, but y'all get what I'm saying. But again, when you're taking in relationship advice and actually giving relationship advice and just thinking about relationships, period, and just noticing our fellow brothers and our sisters, know that trying to put that information on a heart that hasn't been made whole, a heart that hasn't been made whole is liable to make some decisions and even to callous in a way that it really was not intended to callous. All right, it'll protect itself in a way that it wasn't intended to protect itself, because it says from the heart flows the issues of life. And when that heart is closed up and this is that and the other, nothing can really get in the way it needs to, and nothing can get out the way it needs to. So some of the work that we're doing is really just trying to help restore one another to that space. And guess what? Relationship itself is a restorer. It's one of the ways that I believe God has given us to reach one another and to relate to one another and to connect with one another and to be in covenant and closeness and ultimately oneness with one another. That heals our heart in a way. All right, so just kind of take that into consideration. I was all over the place and kind of saying this, but I think that you all are bright enough to kind of get an understanding of what I'm really saying and what I'm really talking about. But just think about that. You know, we don't want to necessarily just give people relationship advice. We want to actually move to a place, and this is what I aim to do in everything that I do, even as I'm talking to you all right now, to give relational guidance that is spirit directed. All right, not just ego directed and not just society directed as to, well, this is what you got to do in order to get over. All right, this is about wisdom, not about wit. Necessarily, this ain't about trying to outwit people. and trying to be crafty to get over people. This is more so about how to align to the wisdom that is at the inner core of our being and our existence and who we really are. All right, y'all, listen, I am love for you, and you know it. I hope that you are being love for me. And I hope this was helpful and going to be useful for some of you. And, you know, share it. You know, I specifically did this for our group or whatever, but a lot of things that I'm doing for the society group, I kind of want to, you know, share it to others, because y'all know my heart. I want everybody to kind of hear this information, even if it's before our time, even if it falls on some deaf ears or whatever. Want to put it out there as best as we can. So, all right, so I'm love for you. Hope you're being love for me, and we look forward to some great and exciting things this decade. All right, so all right, peace. Holla.